in a bit, but we are joined right now by our senior counsel for global affairs, a former Secretary of State and CIA Director, Mike Pompeo. And Secretary Pompeo, I want to go first to you on this leak out of the Supreme Court. I mean, unprecedented to see a leak like this of Justice Alito's draft opinion. Just your initial reaction when this news broke. I mean, you were in charge of two government agencies, and there's certainly an issue with leaking in the government, but we haven't seen it in the judicial branch.
Jordan, it's just broke my heart. I suffered from this. The Trump administration suffered from massive leaks inside of the organizations we were running, almost always with a political agenda. This certainly looks like what happened here as well. And to see this institution, a very small, close, tight-knit group that has never had this before, release something that was clearly attempting to impact decision-making at the court, or to at least get public opinion inflamed. It's just absolutely disheartening. It is tragic. This person is not a hero. This person is someone who clearly violated the rules of the court, probably the law as well, and ought to be prosecuted to the full extent possible.
You know, Mike, I've litigated before that court for 4 decades, as recently as about 18 months ago. Got filed a brief in a case just a couple weeks back. I have been doing this for a long time. I have studied Supreme Court history. I did my PhD doctorate on that. There's never been a leak in U.S. history of an opinion, of a Supreme Court opinion, on a case that hasn't been decided yet they did it here. Now, we talk about, you had leaks. We had leaks when I was representing the president. You had leaks when you were dealing with the State Department or the CIA. The difference here is, not that it was expected in those agencies that you ran, but it was unfortunately fairly common. It is not common in the Supreme Court workings of that branch of government. And as you said, it's a very tight group. It's a very close-knit community. Even the justices that disagree have a very collegial relationship. This is doing tremendous damage, and it was done to inflame 3 things, we think. 1, to try to get a justice maybe to waver off and make that majority opinion a dissent. 2, to get the Congress, which they're talking about doing next week, to try to federalize the right to abortion as recognized in Roe. Or 3, give a justification for President Biden to say, we got to pack the court. We need more people. Look what these radical judges are doing. All of this, though, undercuts completely the integrity and independence of the judiciary, and I called it an institutional insurrection. How do you react to the fact of what's actually going on here and the pressure that's now being placed on these justices?
It's very real. I saw this morning reports that there's now security that's going to be needed for them and for their families. This was all part of the plan, and I watched the Biden administration respond within hours. I wish they'd responded that way to protect the Ukrainian people. There was clearly something here that is nefarious. There's no doubt about that. And Jay, to your point about you litigating there before, think about this. It's not just the Supreme Court. Now every circuit court in America is going to have to worry about this. There will be all the ways that these folks communicated with each other are going to have to be changed. There'll be less in writing. There'll be more done on the fly. There will be institutional responses to this that make courts less capable, less independent. And this was a sacred institution, and it's now been violated in the most fundamental way. And to watch the progressive left write that off as heroic or appropriate or useful or constructive or necessary, those are things that run so counter to the American way. It's just unacceptable. And I pray that this turns out to be one-off, and 50 years from now we say, well, it happened once, and everybody got their act together. I imagine that will not be the case, and there'll be real behavioral changes on the part of justices and judges all across America.
What I'm worried about, Secretary Pompeo, is that we're starting to see the politicians weigh in, and they don't care. On the left, they're going to try and normalize this, like we were just talking about how it's normal to see leaks out of other branches of government. So let's normalize leaks out of courts, like you said. It's going to expand. Adam Schiff literally said, "quote I don't care how the draft leaked. That's a sideshow. What I care about is that a small number of conservative justices who lied about their plans to the Senate intend to deprive millions of women of reproductive care. Codifying Roe isn't enough. We must," and here we go, "expand the court." This is Adam Schiff, who's had problems with his staff and him leaking out documents and sometimes putting out documents that were totally incorrect as a leak. But the idea that they're saying that's a sideshow, we don't even care that this happened, this leak out of the court happened.
This from Jordan. This from Adam Schiff, the Gang of 8 member who's the head of the House Intelligence Committee, to say that he doesn't care about how proprietary information from the Supreme Court, Article 3's most senior justices. It's so disheartening, and he's not unique. It is their view. They are about using whatever tools available to achieve their ends, and it is not only unacceptable, it is evil. And to hear Congressman Schiff say that doesn't surprise me. I saw him leak when I was Secretary of State, CIA Director. I watched things go into his committee and wander into the press. It is so disturbing, and I think the American people are going to hold leaders accountable who refuse to do the basic thing to protect an institution like our Supreme Court.
If you look at the comments, Mike, from even Jen Psaki, the White House spokesperson, she says, I don't have a particular view on that, and talking about the leak, other than to say we note the unprecedented nature of it. But then they get into the real friction is the decision itself. So they're glad it was leaked. Let's be honest. The left is glad it was leaked. They've got thousands of people protesting in front of the Supreme Court. And by the way, this is a very dangerous time for the Supreme Court, so the protesters need to be civil. They're not. Their fact is they're letting the pro-choice protesters. This is a situation we're looking at, right? Pro-choice protesters are getting, guess what? Favored status as far as where they can be posted versus the pro-life protesters. Take a look at that one right now, because that I've argued those cases up there for 30 years. You can't have viewpoint discrimination on where people are. Having said all of that, the fact is this is a pressure campaign on the justices, on the legislature, and frankly on the White House to take action. How do you see the combat? We think what we're doing is a three-prong attack here. We are going to bolster the situation that comes to Congress. We're already working with that to stop the legislation. We're going to get information out on all this, and we've already sent, we haven't even gotten into this disinformation, but the president labels MAGA supporters as the most dangerous political party or political group in American history.
Jay, it's stunning to hear the president go to the podium yesterday. Clearly orchestrated campaign, probably poll tested, saying this is the ultra MAGA movement is an extremist group. Well, I guess I'm an extremist now. I will say this: those of us who believe in the sanctity of human life and that life begins at conception have a real responsibility to engage, just the way the ACLJ has engaged for so many years, to fight this. Do it with moral clarity. Do it with joy in our hearts.
Yep.
Make the case for why this is so important. And those who are either political leaders who can have some ability to impact how this moves, and make sure that these justices also understand that they should do the right thing and render their judgments in a way that's consistent with what they believe, and not let the political pressure impact them one iota.
That is the key. We appreciate you joining us, Secretary Pompeo, part of our team as our Senior Counsel for Global Affairs at the American Center for